Hello and welcome to the School of Breath, where we relearn the simple act of breathing. If you're new to this channel, my name is Abhi and I help you create the life by design. In this video, we'll talk about the basics of respiratory system and what is the most effective way to breathe. And if you stick around until the end of the video, we'll give you a technique, a very powerful technique to strengthen your diaphragm. Well, we started the video with diaphragm because diaphragm right here is the most important part of your breathing. If you have a strong diaphragm, it invariably affects all the other systems within the body. So let's start with the basics of respiratory system. So the two things we have to really get clear about if you want to understand the respiratory system. The first is that the air travels from high pressure to low pressure. And that's the reason why the winds flow and the reason behind the hurricanes. So as the wind flows from high temperature to low temperature, it creates the movement of the winds, and the same law applies to the air we breathe in. So their second concept is that we have two pressures. One pressure is inside the body and the other pressure is the atmospheric pressure. So the atmospheric pressure is the pressure which is the weight of the atmosphere, and it's calculated to be 760 millimeter mercury. That's the millimeter mercury is the unit of measurement. So 760 millimeter is pressuring us, and the body does the same thing. It puts pressure outside so it doesn't collapse. So there is something called an intrapulmonary pressure, the pressure inside the lungs, which is also 760 millimeter mercury. So this pressure creates equilibrium, and that's why our lungs don't collapse. So now let's understand how we breathe in and out and what's the role of diaphragm for breathing in. See, diaphragm is sitting right here under the rib cage. It's basically segregating the thoracic cavity from abdominal cavity. So diaphragm does two things. When you inhale, it contracts, which means it moves downwards. And as the diaphragm moves downwards, it creates an upside down dome shape. And as it moves downwards, it creates a little more room for the lungs to spread, the rib cage to spread. So as it creates a little more room, the volume increases, and when the volume increases, the pressure drops and it becomes 759 millimeter mercury. So as there is 1 millimeter mercury difference between the outside pressure and the intrapulmonary pressure, which is inside the lungs, the air rushes in. And the same thing happens when you exhale. When you exhale, the diaphragm basically relaxes, it comes back to this shape, the dome shape. And as this happens, the rib cage also collapses a little bit and the volume decreases. When the volume decreases, the pressure automatically goes up. So it becomes 761 millimeter mercury. And that's when the pressure pushes the air out automatically. So essentially, the inhale is an active process and exhale is a passive process. And essentially, both your inhale and exhale happen automatically. They can be governed by your autonomic nervous system, or you can breathe in. If you have power over your diaphragm, if you have control over your diaphragm, then you can do controlled diaphragmatic breathing, which is also called belly breathing. But it's technically, there is nothing called belly breathing because you're not breathing into the belly, you're breathing into the lungs. And because the diaphragm pushes downward, it automatically pushes the belly out. So that's what's called belly breathing. But it's really diaphragmatic breathing. But as we start breathing deep inhales and deep exhales, your diaphragm is basically contracting all the way and exhaling all the way, and it's using its full power to bring the breath in and to bring the breath out. So some scientists did a study on the lead athletes, people who are physically performing way above the normal human being. And they found out that even for the lead athletes, their diaphragm is not performing fully. It's not fully expanding and fully contracting. And why is that? Well, because from the very beginning, when we're born from 0 to 5 years, our breathing is perfectly balanced. So if you take a child until 5 years, you'll notice that most of 96% of the children, unless they have a trauma, are breathing perfectly right. And then these children go to school. And when they go to school, what happens? They sit down. When they sit down on a chair, they sit down for 10, 12 hours. So then they come home, sit down on the couch, watch TV. And that becomes our lifestyle going forward. Become adults, we are sitting down in offices, we're sitting down driving to the office, driving back from the office in a car, and then we're sitting down on the TV, well, in front of the TV. So because of our sedentary lifestyle, as we're sitting, the body is always collapsing, and it's collapsing. The diaphragm collapses into the rib cage, and it doesn't give enough room for the lungs to expand all the way. So our breathing is affected, and when we shallow breathe, it automatically is breathing into our upper chest. That activates our sympathetic nervous system. That creates anxiety and stress. And when we have stress in our bodies, it's telling the body, don't worry about digesting the food right now. That's a lower priority. That's a secondary priority. Go save your life because you're getting chased by a wild animal. Go up the tree and save your life. So all our energy, instead of going into rest and digest mode and healing the body, is going into your sympathetic nervous system. So that is the reason why the food stays in the stomach long enough and it's not digested fully. Because if it's not digested, it creates other problems in digestion, constipation. So it's all comes down to diaphragm. And they say because the diaphragm sits right in the middle of the abdominal cavity and the thoracic cavity, that there's a lot of other issues which can happen because your diaphragm is not functioning fully. So today we're gonna get into a technique which is gonna strengthen our diaphragm. You know how you can strengthen the diaphragm? As you work on the muscles in the body in the gym, that strengthens the muscles. How do you strengthen the diaphragm? Well, the first one is when you go up the hill, it becomes difficult for the body, for the respiratory system. Inhales become difficult, and that puts a little pressure on the diaphragm as you walking uphill. So in yoga, in pranayama, there's something called a pratiloma pranayama, which means against the grain. So what you're doing is you're taking 2 fingers and you're covering your nose 50 to 60%. So you're basically blocking the nose and making it difficult for you to inhale, just for inhale. And in exhale, you're removing. So as you inhale, you constrict the nose so it becomes difficult, and diaphragm has to work to breathe in. And you do this for 20 to 30 times. And after 30 times, that's called 1 set. After 30 times, we're gonna exhale fully and then hold the breath out. That is gonna strengthen the diaphragm. And I'm gonna create a simulation of this pranayama technique which you can follow along. But for now, let's do this one time. Take your index finger and thumb and constrict the passage, the nasal cavities, 60%, and inhale. Make sure to take a full breath. You can hold the breath if you like, and then exhale normally. Remove the finger, or you can leave the fingers right here and remove. And do this 20 to 30 times, and you'll see how your diaphragm starts becoming stronger and how your breathing automatically starts becoming better. And that will lead to a lot of other positive changes in your body, especially around your heart reflex or acid reflux or GERD, and your digestion is going to be improved, and it's going to lead to a lot of really good benefits. So if you got a little value from this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button so the channel gets recognized and it gives us motivation to keep bringing more and more videos like this, and hit the like button so we can continue bringing this knowledge to more and more people. Until next time, my name is Abhi and I help you create the life by design. Namaste and peace.